So sorry about that. But the story about the why I got the 97X is because I honestly like it. It's the best looking out of all the GMT 360 platform cars or base cars. Um, Not people know about Saab. Well, you got some that know about Saab and others that don't know about Saab. Like I've got coworkers that were, as soon as I mentioned like I got a Saab, it was like you guys like I haven't heard of Saab in a hot minute. You got people that know about it that haven't heard about it in years, and then you got something that's like what is that? So and also there's a little inside joke with me and my girlfriend that we both have cars from dead companies now. So, um, yeah. I mean, other than that, it's not. It was like it had been sitting for like a couple years when I saw it for the first time, and I paid $800 for it. $800 for a running, somewhat driving, really clean interior Saab 97X with a 5.3. So, but when the day I went to actually buy it, the guy, it was in his backyard. It was in his I guess his grandma's house. It was in the backyard, and it still has a factory rear air suspension, and it still works. So until something happens with that, I'm probably gonna keep it. Probably gonna lower it on the air suspension in the rear and lower it up front, or just keep it the way it is up front. But when I got there, I looked it over. He jumped it off. It ran for like, it pretty much ran for 25, 30 minutes. And then I had a buddy that came there with a trailer. So, but the reason why it was so cheap was because um the guy was dealing with some transmission issues. Did I say transmission issues? Or he labeled it to a transmission, like a sensor on the transmission. The way he described it was that when the transmission was cold, as soon as you first like started up, you could drive it around. But once the transmission got warm, it had no gears. So, like I said, loaded up on the trailer. He told me that he got the car, he was driving it around, and then the next thing you know, it didn't have no gears. So shut it off, let it cool down, and then he limped it over to his grandma's house, and it pretty much sat ever since. He was trying to figure out, but it sat ever since. So I loaded it. It moved. It had surprisingly it moved enough to get loaded up on the trailer. After pumping air the tires, because I think like two of the tires are flat. Also, they are dry rotted, so I don't have to get new tires. Also, I gotta get tags for it because it doesn't have tags on it right now. I have the title for it. I just gotta deal with all that, which I'm dealing with that tomorrow. But yeah, paid $800 for it. Got it back here, loaded off the trailer, moved it back here, let it run for a little bit, and then tried to move it again. It pretty much had the same symptoms as what he described as no gears. So like, okay. Also, another thing, the battery was pretty much done for, because after I shut it off, the battery it did. It didn't have enough power to even start it again. It didn't have enough power to where I could pull the key out. So I had to hook it up to some jumper cables in order to pull the key out. So, and here comes the parts list so far. So Me and my buddy, we were trying to figure out what could cause the transmission to, have the symptoms that the guy had talked about. And we came to the conclusion that it's probably the transmission fluid. So we had changed out the transmission fluid and changed out the transmission filter. And then did all that. The only thing I don't like about it has the 4060E. The only thing I don't like about that is it does not have a drain pan. It does not have a drain bolt. So in order to drain the pan, you have to drop the pan, and that kind of creates a little messy situation. So yeah, that was not fun. So yeah, change the transmission fluid, change the filter. Add new filter, added Lucas stop slip, and let it warm up. Start it, let it warm up. Let it run about 10-15 minutes. Put it in drive, no issues. So started driving it around, and then realized that when it shifted to third, it would slip like third was not there. So me and him came to the conclusion that there was no third or fourth gear, or third or overdrive gear. So we just kept driving it around for a little bit and got it back here. I kept driving it a couple more days, and then just as a little experiment, I was like, well, maybe it probably still has third gear or somewhat left of a third gear. So I decided to shift it manually, like the 1, 2, 3. So I did that, and that didn't work at first. So then I ended up driving around. Next thing I know, the shifter cable popped off the little trans selector on the side of the transmission. So limped it back here, put the cable back on, got like a little bushing from Advanced Auto Parts, which was like, I think, $10-11, maybe $13. Wasn't that hard to put it in. And then kept driving it around. But eventually, after changing the fluid again, I came to the conclusion that there is a third gear and a fourth gear. Just driving around. So what I would do is, first and second was fine, but then in second gear, you got to get it above 3,500 RPM or 3,000 RPM. 3,000 is kind of iffy, but 3,500 RPM, you have to do that. Shift it in the third, let off, let the RPMs drop, and then you'll feel it shift to third. But then you can't give it more than maybe a third of throttle in third unless it slips. And then you can shift it back to drive. You can put it back in drive, and then it has 4 for overdrive. But you can't give it more than a quarter throttle before that starts slipping. So we started thinking after that. I was like, well, it still has a third or fourth gear, just barely. So both of us came to the conclusion that it was the clutch packs. But before my buddy pretty much told me that before I started throwing money at it, trying to figure out the problem. Let's figure this out. So, $100 for the battery, $100-some, not 30-something, yeah, pretty much around $90, $100 for transmission fluid, filter, and Lucas stop leak. And I had a actual running and now actually decently driving 97X, but with barely a third or fourth gear. So, but yeah, we started thinking again, trying to figure out what would be the issue, and I came up with a theory that it could be the shift solenoid as to why like it's shifting slow. So I thought it would be that. So I replaced the shift solenoid. So another, gallon of transmission fluid and a shift solenoid, and did that. Changed I think the B solenoid for 2.3, or yeah, that solenoid, and that still ain't fixed the issue. So it was down for a couple of days because the shifter cable actually broke, and I just went to the junkyard and bought one, just got one off of Trailblazer. So now it's back running and driving. So now I came to the conclusion that, it's the usual common 4L60E 3/4 clutch pack being burnt out. So me and my buddy plan to pull mines out whenever I get a chance to buy a rebuild kit. Pull the transmission in my Saab out, and tear it down. I already know the 3/4 clutch pack is burnt, gone or somewhat gone. But yeah, tear it down, figure out what actually caused the problem, clean it out and rebuild it. Just for the time being, because I've been also researching, trying to see what's cost effective right now, because then again I could pay, $1,500, $1,600, $1,700 plus for a, over $2,000 maybe for a built 4L60E, and then, I still have the same problem, the same 4L60 problem. So I didn't want to deal with that. And also, there's no point in me spending $2,000 on a built transmission where I plan on 6-speed swapping it with a 6080 sometime, probably before the end of the year. Probably going 6-speed swap it. But yeah. Also, if you don't know, my buddy's uncle, he runs True Blue Motorsports, and he's the one who pretty much makes the plug and play 6L80, 6L90 plug and play swap kits for all the GMT 360 platforms. I think a couple other platforms. I'm not too sure. Yeah, and the 6L80 holds more power than a somewhat slightly built 4L80, 4L, and And everybody keeps telling me, well, dude, we'll swap a 480. I don't want to, because it's extra. I have to, swap more stuff out. A 460 is literally drop one, put one in. A 6L80 is with, only thing I need is maybe a couple of, I can't think of the word, adapters, and which my buddy's uncle at True Blue Motorsport, he sells them. So any adapter that I need, I can go to him, and he makes a module that makes the 6L80 work with the, everything else, because the Saabs have a TCM, at least the 07 and up V8 ones have a TCM. And with the 6L80, it's integrated in the transmission. So there's that. So yeah, it's probably gonna get a slightly rebuilt 4L60 by me and my buddy for the time being, so that way it can be fully drivable. The plans for it is just to have a good, I'm not gonna call it truck, but like a good street SUV, to where it's like, my goal is, max 600 to the wheels, maybe 650. Cause after I rebuild the 4060, I'm gonna do a DOD delete and then go with Sloppy Mechanics, the best cam. We'll do that. And since since it has 181,000 miles on it, I'm gonna go ahead and do I'm not gonna do valves. Probably not gonna do rockers. I might do rockers, but valve springs, lifters, all that, along with the DOD kit, along with the cam. I may or may not do long tubes, or I might keep or do shorty headers. I gotta see how it goes with my buddy Saab and install headers on his. But cam, headers, whether it's long tube or shorties, DOD delete, especially DOD delete. That's realistically about it, and then save up for a boost. And then, thinking about lowering it, maybe not. And overall, just it being a nice little something nice I can go on a cruise with because it is comfy. Or I could go on a trip with because it's comfy. It's not loud. Right now, for now, it's not loud. And even then, I drove with my buddy Saab, and his is not loud. It's comfy. You wouldn't expect a V8 noises from a Saab, and it's comfy. It's I can go on a trip with this compared to my S550 because anything after an hour and a half and everything, like, I am not gonna say you're on edge, but like after like 2.5 hours, you're kind of on edge because you got, the exhaust is so loud, the seats aren't made to doing a 2.5 hour road trip. The suspension is lower than everything else, so, and it's also a manual. But yeah. So yeah, this is my new project. Probably stay tuned, see the progress of it. Me and my buddy will probably be documenting my build and his build together. He also has a Saab 970X with the 5.3 in it. He has the exhaust and like a tune and intake on it. So, and might do some content with my S550 while I'm at it, and just have a comparison between mine and his. And an idea that I told him was that, since it's both Saabs, it's gonna be similar builds yet different. Let's name them after, if anybody knows, Saab made airplanes or Saab made fighter jets. Let's name ours after one of the fighter jets. So we'll probably be changing the names to something else sometime. But yeah, I think it's gonna be a good project. And also I'll probably document or make some content with my S550 whenever I start doing upgrades to it when that time comes. So it's gonna be a good little project. And also I got might post some exhaust clips because this is completely bone stock exhaust, everything. So I'll probably post up a comparison between my stock exhaust and my buddy's exhaust, the way his sounds versus the way mine sound. So yeah, but definitely stay tuned, and you definitely will be seeing more of this in the coming weeks and months. But yeah, hope you enjoy.